homemade balm of Gilead onto my hands. It's been so dry out. It's in the minuses every day. It's been an unusual cold snap, and it's going to last for the whole month of December. I just got back from church a little while ago, and even though it's late here in Alaska, well, it's starting to get late. 9:33 at night. I thought it was later than that. So like 3.5 hours at church, a little more. 4, something like that, 3.5, 4. And then I do Divine Liturgy in the morning, tomorrow morning at 8 in the morning. So keeping busy. The Lord did not command me to be hard. In memory of priest Nikolai Belov by Nadezhda Muryanova. I didn't get that last name right. Nadezhda Muravyova. Shuta has long been depopulated. Once it was the center of the Volost, but now there is no such name on the map. Abandoned houses are living out their last days in the forest of Vetluga region, where once life was in full swing. Now the grass is growing. And there is a church in an empty village. Father Nikolai built it on the site of the blown-up church. With your own strong, skillful, hard-working hands, Nicholas the God-pleaser told him. Father lived in the village of Antonika, not far from Shuta. By chance, I then found out that there was a person in the Varnavinsky district to whom Nicholas the Wonder Worker appeared twice. So he came to him on a summer day after Trinity. I remember coming out to us in work clothes, huge black bearded with a thick bass. What a type, Director Yakin would probably say, and what a rare kindness that the man turned out to be, what a tender, tender heart. He then asked us who and where they were from, rejoiced, sent jokes, changed into what befits a priest, and we set off. Shuta. The road there is not that long. It's not that far to go. If it were asphalt and so, a real Russian road, forest with barracks and potholes. But there was no time to listen to Father Nikolai. He told us everything about his Shuta, yes, about the fact that along the course of the river, which is also called the Shuta, there are numerous villages which, until the 1990s of the last century, were very crowded. Shuta was once the largest settlement there. There was a church, there was a religious school. The Volost authorities sat here, teachers, doctors, and merchants lived. There was even a cobblestone pavement. A section of it has been preserved to this day. Under the Soviet regime, a priest and a deacon and many others were repressed. The school was closed and Volost was abolished, and the village began to fade away. Now there's no official Shuta. This area is attributed to the neighboring Gorky, but Father Nikolai dreamed of returning the village to its historical name. I remember stopping near a green hill with a wooden church on it. Father told me everything. Here is a dilapidated house. Here is another one. Here is where there is a pile of bricks. Once there was a religious school. Shuta was deserted a long time ago, but the other villages lived, the priest said. For example, in Antonika in 1988, when I began to build a church, there were people in every house. The kindergarten was full, the primary school. And in Gorky, there was a gulag office. The famous Lydia Ruslanova was sitting here. Agata Lagova was her real name. And why did she get in? She sang one ditty, and someone took it as a hint at Soviet power. It's good that you came after the Trinity and the spirit of the day. Look, the floor in the church is covered with grass, brooms behind the icons. Father remembered this church from his childhood. When I was at school, the dome was still there, and the bell tower was standing. The church died in 1973. The director of the local state farm then decided to repair the road bricks. If the church was blown up, where at hand, he brought the blasters and began to call the locals for help, but they did not go. We were just digging potatoes, said Father Nikolai. Of course, we dropped everything and ran. I remember there was an explosion, then it rose a meter from the ground, the church, and collapsed. At first, everyone sold bricks, a road was made of rubble, and the director of the state farm was dying hard. He called me, I was already in the rank, and he asked for forgiveness for the church. I was left without a father for 6 years, the priest recalled, sitting comfortably near the candle box. My father came home from the war all wounded, shell-shocked, and died in 1953. There's nothing to put on shoes or clothes. Oh, and there was always a spark of God. I love to listen to old women pray. They will gather in which house, and I will stand under the window and listen. I studied at school. I always walked with a cross. And in the army, he put it in his pocket and sewed it to his tunic so that no one could see it. He was baptized by his grandmother and baptized on business in our prayer house. When I was a warden, when the parish opened, we were building a church, but in the meantime, we bought an old house and we prayed there. Before the priesthood, Nikolai Belov worked as a projectionist, traveled to villages, showed films in the club, and became a church warden, then a priest, in general unexpectedly for himself. As they say, sorrows, a healthy 40-year-old man. He was not afraid of any work. In addition to cultural activities, he was a carpenter, a joiner, and full of yard cattle. Even when he became a priest, he kept a cow, almost the only one, in Antonika. He built a house for himself as he came from the army, and suddenly a heart attack. They took me to Varnavino, Father Nikolai recalled. No matter what the doctors do, there's no progress. And so, half delirium, half reality. I was running, and barns and sheep were falling on me, and a man appeared to me in black robes. It was Nicholas the Wonder Worker. He ordered to restore the church on Shud. I promised, and a week later I got back on my feet, and I am in no hurry to fulfill my promises. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, that's what lazy people say. And again, the same man in black robes comes to me. Servant of God, Nicholas, you promised. Why don't you do it? I woke Vera, and roared bitterly. And how can a priest's wife be called only Vera? Vera Nikolaevna, I told her, I promised to build a church when I was sick, and as soon as I heal, I am not in a hurry. That's it. I think eat twice, don't expect the third. This is how it all began. I went to Metropolitan Nikolai to be blessed. Vladika supported him, and Belov began to collect signatures to go to the authorities. It was 1988. Churches were just beginning to revive, and in his district, Nikolai Belov turned to be a pioneer. A local newspaper even published an article about him under the title Not of This World. That's what some twisted their fingers almost at the temple. How much he had to endure then, how many times he gave up. However, he did not even think about giving up the business. I made the layout with a tractor, begged for the forest for free from the peasants on the Baikal forest beyond the Shuta River. In our side, many people are engaged in forests, and then the Hutsuls came to work. They were believers. For 3 years, the temple was chopped down, only chopped down. There was not a day that I was not at the construction site. Our family is all like that. Sledges, wheelers, cart drivers, bent archers, made tubs, and the parish was formed. I and my grandmothers. So basically, he chopped everything himself. Some men helped. But how? You bring a glass before work, two after, and then people go. They didn't go for Christ's sake, but they went for mash. This is how the population was weaned from the faith. My eldest son, Vasily, helped me a lot. He did a whole log house with me from top to bottom. And Vera at first was an opponent of such zealous construction. After all, I did not bring a penny home. I saved all the money for the church. She will bake bread at home, and I will bake a loaf or even two for the carpenters. And at first she swore, and then she went in step with me. I thought, well, my grandmother has accumulated her mind, the priest smiled. For a total of 11 years, Father Nikolai Belov built a church in honor of St. Nicholas the Wonder Worker. The church was consecrated by Metropolitan Nikolai of Nizhny Novgorod and Arzamas on May 27, 1999. After overcoming several flights of stairs, you break out of the semi-darkness into the light and sun to the bells. What space from here an extraordinary view opens from above. Behind deserted Shuda stretch endless forests, and how much sky. When the construction was over, the priest recalled, I went back to Metropolitan Nicholas. Holy Vladika helped me out. The temple is the first in the district, and there is no bell ringing. He gave me a bell, and the very first one is a Chinese rinda from a ship. I brought it from the army. I built pontoon crossings across the Amur and Ussuri rivers. There was, some kind of dream or premonition that everything would return to normal. The peasants gave me another bell. Once they shouted, Nikolai, some eccentric bought a bell to the procurement office, a large one, only a piece that is knocked out at the skirt. I fixed it. That's how he collected them among the people. In the whole region, I remember walking waist deep in the swamp, dragging a bell. Oh, how much suffering I have endured in these 11 years. But the Lord did not command him to toil. He ordered him to borrow and live. This proverb did not leave his lips. And I've got bells here. See, a bell floated over the deserted Shuda. Neither while he was looking for the bells, nor while he was swinging his axe, nor afterwards when he was sitting at a meal with Vladika Nicholas on the day of the consecration of the church, did Belov think about the priesthood. Just on that day, May 27, he learned that he had been awarded the Medal of the Order of Merit for the Fatherland for the construction of the temple. And immediately during the meal, Metropolitan Nicholas and the world Nikolai Vasilievich Kutapov told Nikolai Vasilievich Belov that there were not enough priests. He had built a church. Now he would like to serve himself. And the builder, but I am not worthy. Only when several clergymen were placed in Shud, the parish warden decided to take the priesthood. He was ordained in the winter on St. Nicholas. It's a big parish, the priest lamented, and while the church was being built, many old people died, and young people left in search of work. A few young people only on holidays. Every Sunday he served the liturgy, sometimes in an empty church, but the Lord did not command me to be too hard. The village priest knew that his labors were grace-filled, that he was ordered to revive this church for a reason. It means that it is needed. It means that it pleases God that there is prayer here for the people, for the country, for this land. Father Nikolai Belov died on February 2nd, 2017. He's buried on Shud behind the altar. What happened to the church? I was worried they did not allow it to be empty. For a whole year and frequently but regularly, the priests of Varnarvan served the liturgy there, and the church was looked after by Father Nicholas's neighbor, Andrei Ustinov, who is also from Antonika. They lived very amicably with his young parishioner. By today's rural standards, they were of the same spirit, and Andrei was a sexton on Shud. After the death of the priest, he was offered to take the priesthood. I also had doubts, but I made up my mind anyway. Father Andrei continues to take care of the church. The windows have been changed, the doors, the plant bans, and a lot has been done. But most importantly, the prayer on Shuda did not stop all these years. And there were more people. Often the rector of St. Nicholas gives parishioners a ride himself. Everyone has their phones, so they agreed and went. Father Andrei served every weekend on holidays. Now there is another obedience, the rectorship in the district center and another church in the district, so that every 2 weeks there are services in Shud. But on February 2nd, no matter what day falls, Father Andrei celebrates the liturgy here, then a panakita on the grave behind the altar, and people gather on this day. I remember that on the day after the Trinity, when we were at Father Nikolai's, there was a smell of dry grass in the St. Nicholas Church. On the log walls, there are icons of a wide variety of paintings. There, Father Nikolai, as well as bells, collected them from almost the entire region. But of those that were in the church before the closure in 1937, the priest found only one. The Holy Apostle Andrew I called the heavenly patron of the current Father. Wonderful are thy works, O Lord. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining me. It's good to see you all. God bless you. So I'm an Old Rite Christian, part of the Old Rite Orthodox Church. Our church in Homer, Alaska was started by Father Nikolai and Deacon Vasily, who also were priests and deacon at the church in Nikolaevsk, a village that was started by old believers that came originally from Russia, then into China, then into Brazil, and from Brazil into Alaska. So this Old Rite Orthodox Church used to be Old Believer, Bela Crnitsa, but they switched from Bela Crnitsa to Rokor so that they could teach the services in English. And even though they kept the church Slavonic along with English and the Znameni chant, which is close to the Byzantine style of chant, they're now teaching services in English with some Slavonic still. So it's easy for the youth to learn the Old Rite tradition. It's such a beautiful thing, and I'm so lucky and blessed to be a part of it. If you come here, you can visit. Hope to see you. So it's about my bedtime, and I'll do some more reading tomorrow after church, God willing. And hopefully I'll see you then. God bless. Paka paka. Dobrej noc.